I would just like to, re-welcome everybody. This is the Regina International Film Festival and Awards, and like she said, this is the first one. Over the next 2 days, there'll be 30 plus films appearing here that are both international, national, and local. I'm Andrew Perry, and this is...
I'm Amy Mantica, so I'll also be co-hosting with Andrew this weekend.
How are you, man?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Would you love to introduce yourself?
I'm Zach from The Quiet Toll. I worked on music for the film, so basically what I did, I arranged some music that had been chosen beforehand and went out to Montreal where the film was happening to record it. So that's my purpose in The Quiet Toll.
So you did the musical arrangement and the recording, as Zach just mentioned. How did you come to be involved with the film?
Well, Matthias is the director of the film, had been great friends for quite a long time, and I was studying music in London, Ontario at the time, and so he kind of just got me to come out there to do it, so that's...
What was your, what was it like working with Matthias during this project here?
Well, it was actually a pretty stressful time because I was going out on the Greyhound to get there and they overbooked my bus, so I was stranded in Toronto overnight in the middle of the winter, and it was fun though. It was good.
Looking back, it's
yeah, exactly.
fun, right?
Well,
not at the time. Not at the time.
Well, yeah, and so I ended up I managed to get on the next bus. I was in Montreal the next day, and I was just smelly and overtired, and he didn't show up at the bus station to pick me up, and I was just stressed out, and the music that I was learning was still a little bit rusty, so it was just stressed out. That was a stressed out weekend, but we got into the studio, I believe on the Sunday, and I had my sheet music on the left that I made notes on and stuff, and he had a tablet on the right, and I had to sync up what I was playing to the film, and so we hadn't really done too much of this beforehand, so it was a lot of rehearsal and your final product at the same time. And that's one of those difficult things. And so I remember at one point he was telling me that I had to play more like a steamboat rolling across a chocolate river. And I pulled him aside and I was like, can you just stop that? Because this is already great enough, so.
Well, it sounds with composition to films, and it's very abstract in the way we communicate about it and things like that. How did you kind of overcome these obstacles? And in the end, were you happy with the performance you had given, and it worked for the film, or because it clearly was a very intense afternoon, as you mentioned?
Well, yeah, I was in the end very happy with it, and we kind of overcame it just by running it, as many times as we had to until it was done. I think we booked the hall and the recording engineer for 3 or 4 hours, I can't remember, but we used every single second of those hours, and it was it was good, it was great, so.
Yeah, with the end of the product, the final cut and everything, how did you enjoy the film and seeing your work put into a film like that? What was that like for you?
It's kind of a weird thing to hear the music that you played being used. We made this about 3 years ago, and the film is sort of coming around finally now, and it's been changed a few times. I've seen a variety of cuts of it, and he's used the music in 3 or 4 different ways. And so each and every time, it's just, very interesting, very neat to hear my playing again, and I'm pretty pleased with the performance I gave, honestly. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's good to know that the afternoon, it paid off, right? How did you get into, composing, recording, arranging for films? How does somebody fall into something specific like that?
Well, I just have a good friend of Matthias, I guess. It's actually the only film that I've ever done music for, but. Well, I had been studying music for a long time. I started singing in a choir here in Regina, and eventually started taking voice lessons and piano lessons, and decided, you know, I wanted to go off to school to study this, and I originally went for vocal performance, but my voice teacher thought that I would be a good composition student, so yeah, exactly. But yeah, I switched into composition and really enjoyed it, and so I think I don't know if I mentioned, but I worked on a play when I was in third year. I wrote all original music for it, and I was at every rehearsal, and you know, created my band and rehearsed and did all that. And then later in the year, I got the call. He was interested in me playing music for this film, and so, you know, just kind of from there went on.
So what's it like when you sit down and you're going to begin composing some music for something? Take us through what your process is for that. Is it something that's very natural, or do you approach it in several different ways?
I remember reading an interview that one of my professors gave, and he said, you know, you can start by thinking about things like melody or harmony or timbre, but really it's difficult to get started unless you know exactly what you want sort of from the get-go. And so if I'm gonna sit down and write a piece, I usually have to make notes for myself. You have to spend a lot of time on it to make it good. And so for the music that we did for The Quiet Toll, I didn't actually compose a lot of it. It was more paring down. So what I did, I asked him for the names of the songs and for some rough cuts, like some pieces of the film that you wanted music for, just to kind of, you know, wrap my head around sort of what he wanted, and, you know, just, you know, kind of went on like that. But
Do you think you'd compose for movies in the future, or films?
yeah, I think it would be an interesting thing. I haven't done a lot of writing lately, so it might be good to kind of get started again, so.
Yeah, maybe, I don't think we actually talked about the plot of The Quiet Toll or anything like that, so maybe if you want to sort of share with the audience as they've heard a bit about the music, tell us sort of roughly.
Well, it is set in Montreal in the 30s. I'm not gonna give you the same synopsis that I gave earlier, but it's about this guy who meets another guy, and it's sort of about social. Man, I forgot the word that I wanted to use, but it's about like resisting sort of what you can and can't do in society, and you know how he sort of overcomes it in this film. So
At this point, does anyone have any questions in the audience they'd like to ask Zach?
What was it like composing a whole? Was it a musical?
it was not actually a musical, but it was called The Night of the Burning Pestle, and it was from around the same period of time as like when Shakespeare was writing. So it's a really weird play. Like, it's a play within a play. So the people who are in the real play that's supposed to be happening are trying to put on this serious love story, and then these people who are in the audience try to get their son into the play. And they wanted to like fight ogres and like fall in love with the love interest in the play. And so like the music that I wrote, they had dance interludes in it. So I wrote about 4 dance interludes, and then music for the fight scene with the ogre. I can't remember if it's an ogre or not, but
It's quite a range you have.
yeah, well.
You have to go back to madrigals and
I tried to do that. I wanted to write like fiddling tunes, and my violin player was like, "What are you trying to write like a fugue right now? Like, I don't like this at all." And so I had to like go back, and it was. I remember spending hours on it just because like it was about an hour and a half, I believe, and I had to write, I don't know, about 20 different pieces of music for it. So.
wow.
Yeah.
Was most of the writing done before you had seen the actual film and even a rough cut stage?
Well, I didn't actually write the music for it. I just, he chose pieces by Claude Debussy, who was a French composer. He's an impressionist composer, and his music's very light and tender. The pieces he chose were from, I believe it's called 5 Pieces for Children, but they're some of the more popular Debussy pieces, and they're, you know, they're fast, they're light, they're quiet, sort of tender. He wants me to use the word tender to describe this film. Just Matthias is speaking through me right now. But
He'd be very pleased. You got it.
but yeah, so he told me what pieces he wanted me to learn, and then I learned them and watched his films and attempted to pare them down beforehand. But when we were in the recording stage, he actually changed his mind, and I remember having to like go through and quickly like change all the arranging I did. So, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting to work like that. So, kind of high pressure, very quick. So,
Stressful.
yeah.
But turned out really great.
Yeah, it did. I believe so.
Okay, do we have any more questions from the audience, or? Okay, I think that means that we'll conclude this interview, so thank you for talking with us today, Zach.